Hello, I'm Ben. Welcome to the channel. So today we're going to talk about a recent research project by the Bain Institute where they identified 33 distinguishing characteristics of inspirational leaders. So think about inspirational leaders. Think about those that have been in your life and how they impacted you, and see if these characteristics resonate with you and that person. So there are some hashtags on this. I'm going to put this just as I took it as the thumbnail for the video. Motivation, inspiration, leadership, infographics, emotional intelligence, and personal development, all pieces of this. I have done videos on pretty much every one of those subjects. I am a lifelong student of leadership. I do it professionally. So this is a subject matter that resonates strongly with me. These characteristics, actually, I was talking to a company this evening, doing some consulting work, and was talking specifically about some of these top 3 that we're going to jump into. And so we'll go through it. And I've explained all these before, so we'll talk briefly maybe about the definitions. But if you don't know the definitions of these things and you're in leadership or you're in management and you're trying to establish yourself as a leader, I would suggest you look up every individual one of these things and understand them better and understand the impact that they have on both you, the dynamics of your team, and of the culture of your organization, okay? And it may be that an organization celebrates these words, but they don't actually put it into effect. They're not real. They're not genuine. And if that's the case, if that's something you see, then that may be a decision maker around whether or not you want to stay with your organization. So 33 distinguishing characteristics. So we'll go through the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll go through the first 8. This is talking about developing inner resources. The next segment is talking about connecting with others. The third segment is talking about setting the tone. And the last one is going to talk about leading the team. And all this has to do with the centeredness or the resolute foundation of this leader, right? These are the 33 traits that inspire. So the first 8 are stress tolerance, self-regard, emotional self-awareness, flexibility, emotional expression, independence, self-actualization, and optimism. So we'll go through these very quickly. I'll start with optimism. It's very simple. In the world and in business, to be optimistic is a superpower. Obviously, you don't want to be blindly stupid and run around happy with a big grin on your face. That's not what we're talking about. The idea is that your expectation should be that things are going to go well. If you expect that in a positive way, things most of the time will go well. That's optimism. Because if you create an environment where people are hopeful and happy, you're going to come to solutions and resolutions that are going to support that things are going to be helpful and happy. So that's optimism. Next is flexibility. If you're going to be developing your inner resources, you have to be flexible. If you're too rigid in who you are or how you do things, things that don't bend break. So from time to time, you're going to have to be flexible. Also, change is the only thing that's consistent and current always. If you're not flexible, you can't navigate change well. And if you can't navigate change, you can't be a leader, okay? Emotional self-awareness. If you don't know what angers you, what gets you calm, what gets you twisted, if you don't know what bothers you, I don't like the word triggered. I don't think adults should respond to emotion like that. I think you should be more stoic and you should handle emotion, because emotion is just like a sneeze or a cough, okay? You should be in control of that. Get a tissue if you need to. But emotional self-awareness says you know where you are on the spectrum, you know what things are going to bother you and how you're going to be bothered by them. Self-actualization, that means you're studying your own self, you know what you want, you know what you're doing, and you know that you're okay with that. That's something that a lot of people don't have. If you don't have self-actualization, you can't be motivated intrinsically, internally to do what you have to do sometimes. So, and then also, you know, if things don't resonate well with you, if something doesn't match, be aware enough of yourself to know, hey, I'm not doing this. This is not where I belong. I do that occasionally, and when I do, I'm always happy that I did it. During the moment, there may be a question, there may be some concern, but overall, it matters. Self-regard, okay? We've said earlier in other videos that you should treat yourself like someone that you should help, right? If you think about how you treat other people, and you try to go out of your way to help other people, sometimes even strangers, and you treat yourself terrible, you say negative things to yourself, that talks about your self-regard. You should hold yourself in high esteem. You should do the things that improve yourself. You should do things correctly and appropriately so you don't have guilt or feel questions about things, and then hold yourself to that self-regard and make sure that you're improving yourself and you're looking to get better. Stress tolerance, that's pretty self-explanatory. It's simple. All you can do is all you can do. If you live in an environment where there's stress about everything and things that are outside of your control, and you're feeling stress about things that are outside of your control, then you're not focused on the real picture. Live in reality. If you live in a world or you work for someone that's just stressed for no reason, get out of that. You live maybe 100 years. I think the average age right now is 77.5 years. If you live 77.5 years, do you really want people in your life for 5 or 6 years or more or less that just increase your stress? That's part of that self-awareness. And if you're feeling that much stress, what's the team feeling? Okay? And the last is emotional expression. If you don't express your emotions, sooner or later they'll express you. Okay? So occasionally you have to have somewhere where you can express your emotions. I don't think it's professional to do that at work. I don't think people at work are your friends. I don't think they need to know about your emotions. I think you all should be friendly and you should care about one another, but I don't think that needs to go any further. So emotional expression, know what makes you move a certain way, understand that, and make sure you're not expressing yourself in a way that you don't want to. Okay? Next is connecting with others. So you have 8 here, connecting with others. Humility. If you're too much of a braggart, people aren't going to want to be around you. Humility means you're humble in a way, you know your weaknesses, or you're just polite and don't talk about how great you are. That in itself is an act of humility. So be humble. Expressiveness. Can you speak to people in a way that they understand and they appreciate? That's expressiveness. Listening. Do you know how to listen? Do you get a value from it? Are you listening to the people's words and what they're saying? Are you watching their nonverbal communication so you understand them and listen effectively? Or are you just sitting there trying to hear what they're saying while you're thinking about what you're saying? Development. Growth is consistent or you're outdated. So you always should be focused on your development and developing your team. That's extremely important. Vitality. That means you're healthy, you're energetic, you're able to get after things, and you're focused on what makes you those things. So focus on your vitality, focus on the vitality of your teams. Things that are vital, teams that are vital and feel like that's important, they work well together and they're energetic. Commonality, make sure your team understands what you have in common with them. Make sure you're all aligned with a common goal. It doesn't matter how different you are from another person. Doesn't matter if you believe different things, if you vote for different people, none of that matters. You still should be 2 good humans that want to raise your family in a safe way and live on a safe planet that does good things for all other humans, right? So that should be a commonality that you should know. It shouldn't be us or them. It should be commonality. They're all human beings. We all suck the same air. So at the end of the day, if one of us jacks up the air for all of us, we all die. Commonality. We're all peas in a pod. And that can be very different peas in the very large pod. But at the end of the day, there's common. You always have something in common with the person standing across from you. It doesn't matter what they look like or where they're from or what they believe. Assertiveness, a leader should be assertive. The team should understand what they're saying and what they want. They're expressive. They listen. They are interested in developing their team. They have commonality with them. So you're coming from a place of trust. So you should be assertive and drive your teams based on their performance expectations. And the last in that, connecting with others, is empathy. If you don't have empathy for your team, if you don't have empathy for what people are going through, you have no business in leadership. So if you don't know what the word empathy is, and believe me, I've had bosses that have no clue what the word even means. They had no business in the roles they were in. Look up empathy, understand it, and practice and preach it to your teams. All right, the next is setting the tone, okay? So when we're talking about setting the tone, there's 8 things in here. 1, there's a worldview. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, where you have a view of the world and it's either common, shared, or not. There's a shared ambition, so we're all in this together to achieve a common goal. There's follow through. You have to go back. If you have an expectation, you have to communicate that. You have to follow it up and follow through. Responsibility, you have to take responsibility for your actions and the actions of your team for what you did or didn't do. Openness, you want to be transparent in many, many ways. You obviously keep what should be kept held, but you want to be open around other things, including your responses and what you think and how you feel about things. Unselfishness, that's a given. If you're going to lead a team, you're going to have to give what you can to that team. Sometimes it's more than you want to give, but it is what it is. The next is recognition. Everyone works better with recognition. Everybody wants recognition. Everybody doesn't necessarily want recognition in the same way, but it's resolute for everyone. Everybody wants recognition. And the final piece of that category, setting the tone, is balance. It's very simple. Everything in your life should be broken down into these components, and everything should be balanced. One thing shouldn't be all you do. I was very guilty for working and doing nothing but work for a very long time. It's how I found myself a bachelor at this point in my life with no kids of my own. So that's kind of the thought process, is you have to find balance. You can't live for one reason or the other. At some point, you have to have that broken down where you do all different components, because that makes you a better human being and it keeps your development going. The last component of this 4-quadrant item is leading the team. The biggest thing I'll say about this is they all have to be effectively communicated. So one's the vision. Everybody should understand the vision and what we're trying to achieve. 2 is the direction. Everybody should know which direction we're moving. We should be moving there together. 3 is co-creation. Everybody should be motivated to do their best work, and they do that because you've allowed them to contribute in the past. And so they're bought in and they're enthusiastic about it, and that co-creation will really start humming when you do that way. Sponsorship, you allow people to fail forward, you pull them up towards you to the expectations of the group. That in itself is sponsorship. You believe in someone, you give them the chance to step up and spread their wings. Focus. Everyone knows what focus is. I think there's an extreme lack of focus these days. We like to say things like we multitask, which is nonsense. Multitasking is doing a bunch of things in a poor manner. You do what's expected, dress right, dress. You do first things first, not what's urgent, and you stay focused on that pattern. And if you do that with consistency over time, you'll have the ripple effect, and you'll have huge results by taking an inch a day. The next is empowerment. Nobody likes to be chained and have no control over what they're doing or how they're doing it. Empower your people, believe in your people, interview them, hire the right people, and then empower them to do the jobs you hired them to do and get out of the way. When I go to companies that are jacked up and they're like, man, what's the issue here? What's happening? And you observe, it comes very quickly. You've got 19 brains on this floor, but only one of them is telling people what to do and coming up with decisions, because that one won't let anybody else participate. At the end of the day, you're making 19 people be as dumb as one. That makes no sense to me. You've hired these 19 people. Use all 19 brains. Make the place better. Let people be empowered and be enthusiastic about what they do for a living, and get that one dummy out of there that thinks he's smarter than everyone else, and at the end of the day wants to hold everybody else accountable for his poor performance or her poor performance. It's stupid. Next is servanthood. Leadership should be an act of service. There's really not much more to say about that. You're going to get paid well if you're a great leader. But the way you become a great leader is you're effective in listening, and you genuinely care. So if you don't care about your team, and you don't care about what they're doing in their lives, you don't care about their future, their family, and their kids, then you're not going to be able to serve that person very well. And if you're not serving that person very well, they're temporary. So they're an employee, they're someone that you have just for a brief period of time, which is true about all of us. We all have very limited time. But servanthood means you're emulating Christ. You're emulating Gandhi. You're emulating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. You're emulating, your grandma who used to cook for people that she didn't even know, right? It's a good thing to be a servant, because Jesus Christ was. And at the end of the day, the only way you enjoy or take joy out of life is when you have a positive impact on others. What's interesting about that is that's the only way to get rich as well. If you care about other people and you help other people reach their goals, that's how you become wealthy. Rich can be anything. It'd be one awful song that's played repetitively, but ultimately that money goes away, right? And the last is harmony. Harmony is like balance, but a little different. Harmony means your balance meets your lifestyle and what you need. So balance means everything's equal and broken down in parts that are manageable. Harmony means you're in tune with who you are. It doesn't do anyone good to be untrue to themselves. You have one life, be yourself, whatever that means to you. And at the end of the day, if you're doing all these other things and you're in line and you're yourself, that's going to motivate people, because they're going to feel comfortable around you because it's genuine. They're going to believe you, and they're going to be comfortable being themselves. So that is the 33 distinguishing characteristics of an inspirational leader. I've done multiple videos on books that talk about some of these subjects and similar subject matter. I like stuff like this. If you like stuff like this, please subscribe to the channel. We get through a lot of these different items in these videos. My videos may be different than what you're used to. I don't use a lot of graphics to do all that. I like to talk it through and use it more as a vlog type system because I think it comes through better. And if you take the thumbnails and you get that picture on your phone and you listen to this video when you're driving to and from work or whatever it may be, or whenever you have time to make that time, hopefully you gather some wisdom from it that you didn't have before. I appreciate you paying attention. If you like the channel, please subscribe. See you soon. Be good.